Thank you for tuning in to Love in Your Hands with Cynthia Clark, soulmate palmist, spiritual teacher, love coach, author, and speaker. We're sharing stories of love and connection and lessons learned along the way. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to ignite soulmate love fast using an innovative system to help you end loneliness and toxic relationships and elevate your vibrational energy to soulmate love and deeply compatible partners. Get started for free at loveinyourhands.com. And now here's your host, Cynthia Clark. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Cynthia Clark, and I am your soulmate palmist and spiritual teacher. You can find me over at loveinyourhands.com if you are looking for long-lasting love. And today I am so excited. We are going to have a fantastic guest today. Her name is Simone Butler, and she is a longtime astrologer. I love bringing astrology into the mix because it's so pertinent for matchmaking and understanding relationships. So she's got a huge amount of experience. She's published 2 books. You can find them on Amazon. We've got Moon Power and Astro Feng Shui, which I love Feng Shui too, so this is so cool. And you can also find her over at her website, astroalchemist.com. Thank you.
Alchemy.
Oh, sorry, Astro Alchemy. Thank you for correcting me.
Yes.
And thank you for coming on the show, Simone.
So glad to be here, Cynthia.
So this is a beautiful day. Here we are in the summertime. And a lot of people think of love in the summertime because the sun is out. And when we think of our sun energy, of course, we think of our sun sign. So, but I want to talk a little bit about that because astrology is so much more than your sun sign.
For sure.
So when you look at relationships and the importance of what to look at, what do you consider the most important aspects in actually determining compatibility?
The maturity level of the people involved, honestly, really, because I have seen on paper combinations that I would have said, no way is this couple ever going to make it. But these were people who had spent years working on themselves, or they truly loved each other enough to do the work, because that's what relationships are about. I mean, yes, hopefully we have some fun along the way, but they're really about refining those rough edges within ourselves and learning and growing together. And so probably, the maturity level, and also having some kind of shared goal. And maybe the goal is the relationship itself, just to, make that the number one primary goal in your life, is that the two of you grow and learn together. There's some aspects are more difficult than others, like moon square moon is particularly tricky, I find, when one person's moon sign squares another person's moon sign, because the moon is what your comfort level, it's how you are at home, it's how your emotions are. And when those are square or not harmonious to one another, there can really be problems, either with your families not getting along, or with problems in the home, live, or the way, what makes you feel comfortable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So people can find out their moon sign through just going online, or how do they find out?
When I came out with Moon Power, the book in 2016, I put a moon finder on my website. So you can go to my website and you'll see a little tab at the top that says Moon Finder. And it is very, very helpful to have your time of birth, or at least an approximate time of birth, because the moon does change signs every 2.5 days. And so some people are born on the day the moon changes sign. And you really want to determine for sure what, which of the two is your sometimes you can do that just through reading about, like if it's a question between a Pisces moon or an Aries moon, generally that's a pretty dramatic difference between those two, and it might be, you might be able to guess. But if you can get the time of birth, make sure you do that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, when I did my husband's chart and my chart, we had very harmonious moons.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's a Cancer moon and I'm a Scorpio moon.
Ah.
And yeah, we seem to get along really well most of the time. So
yeah, that would be the corollary I should have mentioned, is if the squared moons are the most difficult, then certainly the trined moons, as far as especially living together and creating a happy home life, that would be maybe one of the better aspects to have.
Yeah, he loves decorating the house with me. So it's a lot of fun. We're constantly putting up art and looking for different art pieces and where to put them. And yeah, he's got a real eye for placement. So
Nice.
yeah, we're both into feng shui quite a bit now. So it's really fun. But yeah, so I love I just love the idea that, astrology really confirms what you start to discover about somebody. And yeah, I dated this what I call my fatal attraction before I got married a few years ago, and we had some really challenging aspects and I just ignored them. It's like
Yeah.
and sometimes, do you feel like sometimes we have to go through difficult relationships anyway?
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. I mean, personally, I've been through some very difficult ones in my life. I've come rather close to marriage. I've been engaged twice, once in my 20s and once in my 30s. I tell you what, neither one of those would have lasted as a marriage. So I'm glad I don't have to announce that I've been twice divorced.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, some of us have an easier chart for relationship than others. Like, I have Sagittarius on my point of partnership, the 7th house cusp. I'm looking for adventure and growth and learning and, something a little exotic, something different than me, a person who I can go places with, sometimes literally through travel, that sort of thing. But that type of energy doesn't really lend itself toward settling down. And now I'm at a point in my life where I really would like to, I don't know that settle down is quite the right term. I am a Cancer, so, I love my home and I want to share this next third act of my life with somebody where we where he is grounded enough. Taurus is my favorite sign for sure. And so some earthy, unflappable man who has some strong earth, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo, but Taurus ideally in his chart.
Yeah, Taurus is ruled by Venus, isn't that right? And yeah, Venus is all about that love energy and that creating that home, happy home. And there's some, I dated a Taurus. Actually, my first boyfriend was a Taurus. And yeah, he really enjoyed his apartment and just making it really comfortable. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, they're very sensual and they're very good with their hands. They can make things and build things. I'm really passionate about earth building, and I've traveled all through the Southwest. I lived in Sedona, as you may recall, for some time, and not a lot of earth building going on there, but in Arizona in general there is. And so for a while I said I wanted a mud man, a man who had that earthy, muddy, sensual, can build anything quality to it.
Yeah, so let's take a look at your hands and let's see if your hands agree with that. So this will be kind of fun. Okay, so I'm going to do a little screen share here. And we're going to take a look at Simone's hands. And here we are. Okay, so yeah, so you are a water hand. We've got the long fingers, long palm, and your dominant finger is your index finger, also known as your Jupiter finger. So this is what we call the butterfly hand. So butterflies, of course, are they're all about change,
Yeah.
which kind of makes sense how you've gone through a lot of changes in your life. And you also help other people to change.
Mm-hmm.
So, anybody who is stuck or feeling stuck in their life, you are an excellent person to know in order to help them get unstuck. So, and you use your astrology to do that, which is terrific because
Yeah, that's totally my specialty.
yeah, that reminds me of this other astrologer I worked with during my transition period. It was like right after I got divorced. And he pretty much told me, he's like, you're in your midlife passage right now. Things are going to be changing a lot. And he even warned me about that fatal attraction. He's like, don't get too attached because you're changing so much right now. Things are going to look very differently once you come out of that midlife passage. And he was so right about it. It was
Yeah.
just amazing. So yeah, so this is one of the gifts that you can bring to your clients, and anybody who doubts the validity of astrology needs to just go and explore it some more because it's incredibly accurate.
Well, I just want to say I also have the Sun conjunct Uranus in my chart, and the Sun Uranus person is all about change. It's not really an energy of, groundedness. And plus, I have no Earth in my chart. So between
Mm.
conjunct Uranus, Mars conjunct Jupiter in Leo, and no Earth, yeah, I'm a butterfly for sure.
Yeah. So looking at your best match, you actually are absolutely correct that an earth hand would be your best match.
Uh-huh.
Because that watery hand, the harmonious energy would be earth. So you would want to find somebody with short fingers and a square palm. And they typically have quite thick hands as well. So they have, substance to them.
Mhm.
And I love your thumb, though. You've got a very dominant thumb. I was
Yeah.
going to comment on this. The thumb represents your willpower. So even though you've got all this watery nature to your hand, you're pretty strong in your willpower.
Oh, yeah.
And you have an ability to push through and get things done. And even though it's not in a grounded way necessarily, you do have that ability, and you're very adaptable as well. So that's the positive side. I'd recommend you find somebody with a strong, equally strong thumb, because that's usually it's good to have that kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I see with your thumb. And then also when we look at the fingers, since your Jupiter finger is your strong finger, which is also the water finger, you'd want to find somebody with a strong earth finger, which would be the middle finger or the Saturn finger. So that combination would be called the Empress. So
Mm-hmm.
the Empress archetype would be your very best match to give you all the grounded energy you need. And they would also really value the home energy too, because that's really what the Empress is all about. It's that persevering energy that grows over time, and they would be very comfortable with you. So they would value your watery energy, they would value your adaptability, and um, they would know how to put it to good use. So that's what I would recommend for you.
So even though Empress sounds like a feminine archetype, I'm assuming this comes in male form as well.
Yes, in fact, it's much more common in men than it is in women. So certain archetypes, even though they have a feminine name, it actually has nothing to do with being a man or a woman. For example, a high priestess, you would consider that a very feminine archetype, but you see it in men just as often. So yeah, so the archetypes, they are technically they're gender neutral. They are just referring to specific character traits. But
Mm-hmm.
all of the earth hands, I would say, are more common in men. And the water hands, like yourself, are more common in women,
Mm.
um, but certainly not exclusively so. So, you know, it's just interesting to see some of the statistics. So,
Can I ask a question?
yeah, of course.
I know that you can see what's going on now or what's coming up when looking at the palm. And I'm just curious because we're speaking on the 13th of July, and this is my birthday week. And
Oh, happy birthday.
thank you. In astrology, we have something called the solar return chart.
Mm-hmm.
You get a different solar return chart every birthday, and it gives you an idea of what's up for the year, where you're headed, what's emphasized. So I have a lot of relationship energy in this chart. Venus in the 5th house, the sun in the 7th house. And so this is very encouraging to me because I feel like this is what I really want, is the true partnership that I've been looking for. So I'm just wondering if there's anything in my palm that might point toward that in the near future.
Okay, so yeah, so what I like to stress about hands is certain things in your hands will be permanent. So that would be like your fingerprints, your palmar prints. Those are totally unchangeable. That's going to be your soul level stuff. Then you've got your hand shape, which forms by the time you're about 6 years old, which we were just talking about as the butterfly. And then everything else in your hand is actually changeable. So it's going to reflect what's going on in your life, the decisions you're making, how you react to stress, you know, are you open to relationships, things like that. Like all of that is changeable. So when I look at your hand, you know, the lines are actually the most changeable part of your hand. So if I blow this up and I kind of take a look, I like to see like, okay, what is going on with the heart line, especially because that's your emotional flow line. So when we look at relationship stuff, and we like to look at what's called your affection lines, which are these little lines off of the little finger that are like the horizontal lines. They're just above the heart line. So they actually tell you if you're ready for a relationship or not. And we want to definitely take a look at that. So I would say this affection line, you do have an affection line, which would to me indicate that a relationship is on the board. So I could definitely see a potential relationship just from the presence of this line. These do ebb and flow, by the way. So sometimes like you may have an affection line now and it may change. So it's good to keep an eye on it. And the next thing I always look for in this affection line is what is the line doing? Okay, so in this case, the line is just coming straight out into your hand and it's stopping. I consider that a very positive formation because that is how we want it to look. Okay, when it comes out into the palm too far, like if it's too long and it ends up coming into Mercury, that's basically an indication of you are too picky and
Oh,
you might actually not like find a partner who is good enough for you because you're constantly tearing them down. So we don't want to see that.
yeah.
And we also don't want to see this line curving too much either because that's going to show some sort of cutting off of the energy. So the fact that it's nice and straight and not too long is, I would consider that very positive. So yes, I would say in terms of, are you ready for a relationship? Yes. Are you open to a relationship? Yes. And then let's take a look at, now you also have, here's another aside. This is very esoteric palm reading, okay? You've got a talent marker that is also showing up in your hands, and it is located here in this Mercury mount. We call this the healing stigmata, and it is a talent marker of the healer. Okay, so it's got to be, you know, at least 4 lines that are kind of lined up in Mercury, and I definitely see this here with you. Now, I feel like you are probably using this in your work already because you're helping people understand themselves. You're helping them to grow through the understanding of their charts, which is a very positive thing. But if you were not using your healing stigmata, that can pose pretty severe relationship problems. So occasionally I will see people who have this marker and they're not using it in any kind of capacity. And then I ask them about their relationships and they're like, oh yeah, it's a disaster. You know, it's like, So, because when talent markers show up in the hand, basically it's kind of like being drafted in the military. It says, okay, this is a requirement for you to use, and if you don't use it, there will be a penalty. So it's good to know what our talent markers are so that we can use them.
And you think it has to do with writing more or doing?
No, I don't think it's definitely not specific to writing. Healing stigmata is simply, I consider it simply a helping marker where you want to use it in terms of what is your archetype too. You've got that beautiful butterfly archetype. You're helping people to let go of things that they don't need. I would say that's your main capacity of how you need to use it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, okay, so let's take a look at this heart line. The heart line, of course, is your emotional flow, how you feel, how you share your feelings with others, how much you feel. And this can definitely guide you also in terms of a relationship. Okay, so what I see here now, this is very normal. We have a little bit of chaining at the beginning of the line that shows emotional stress. Almost, I would say probably 97% of heart lines will look this way. So almost all of us go through emotional stress. This little island is also an indicator of emotional stress. I've got the same thing on my hand. It's just very, very common. So we don't worry too much about that. But we do look at where is this line actually going. And I would say this line is trying to curve up here towards Saturn. It's a pretty sharp curve. And so I would say this is a fiery heart line, meaning that you need to get your emotions up and out. Don't hold them in for too long. And you should be aware of what you're feeling pretty quickly. So in terms of when you meet somebody, you're going to know pretty soon after you meet them whether or not there's a potential in that relationship. So this is not the case with a lot of people, but with you, I think you're very in tune with your because you're watery, you're a butterfly, and you've got this fiery heart line. You're going to be pretty clear pretty quick. So, you know, give it as much time as you feel it needs, but I don't think you're going to be dragging things out for months and months to figure it out. Which is good. You know, some people need to take more time, but that's not you. And your best match would be somebody who has the opposite heart line as you. So the heart line would actually come all the way across the hand and it would be straight. Okay, we would call that the air heart line because fire and air go together. And the air heart line person is going to be somebody who's very thoughtful. They're going to be the ones creating the romantic dinners or, you know, the weekend getaways, you know, things like that. Like they're all about setting up the scene. They know just the right music to play. They know, they think about all the little details. It's like they don't miss that. Okay. And they're going to be the ones listening to you. They're going to be very good listeners. And for you, that's perfect because you want to express yourself. That's important for you. You need to be able to share who you are and be accepted. And that person is going to hear you, understand you, and be thoughtful about supporting you. So that's what I see with your Heartline.
It sounds nice.
Yeah.
Any indication of the best way to meet him?
The best way to meet him. Why don't we pull a card on that? Because that's not specifically in the hands. But yeah, let's take a look at that. I've got my golden tarot deck right here, which is my go-to deck when I need to pull something. And let's just see what it says.
Because I am not big on internet dating. I've not had good luck with it at all. And I find it excruciating. So I'd really rather avoid that unless for some reason it turns out that that's really the best way.
Well, just looking at the type of person that you're trying to attract, an Empress, they typically are not internet people.
Oh.
So, the type of person this would be is going to be more of an outdoorsy type person, more connected to nature, probably somebody who's pretty spiritual, and they're really in touch with, humanitarian stuff like the earth, the quality of the earth. How are we treating our planet?
Yes, that's what I want.
That's the kind of person you need.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just see, where is this person for you? Like, where would be a good place to go? Okay, so the card coming up is the inverted Nine of Cups. Okay, the Nine of Cups. By the way, this is, I don't know if you're familiar with tarot, but this is the wish card. And this is actually a good card, both upright and inverted. It's one of the few cards that's good either way. And this, to me, really represents somebody who is in touch with their desires. Okay, so when we think about, like, okay, where are you going to meet this person? I'm getting the impression that you might meet this person in like a restaurant, because there's like food here. Okay, so this person is like, they're at a table and they're eating. So I could see it either being at a restaurant or somewhere where you're getting spiritual nourishment, like a park or like a trail, maybe a hiking trail or something like that. Because we've also got like a bird in the picture and a dog in the picture. So maybe even going to like a dog shelter or something like that, or a dog park.
I love to go to Dog Beach and go for walks there, even though I don't have a dog.
Yes. Some of the best ways to meet people are people who have dogs. And they're very friendly because dogs you can approach anybody who has a dog.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to get to meet somebody. So I kind of have a feeling like that could be a good way for you to meet somebody.
Okay.
So, and dog people tend to be very loving and caring anyway, because they're taking care of an animal. Right? So, yeah, so that's,
I'm a cat person. I have, and yet I've always felt that my man was probably a dog person, and hopefully I will like the dog, because I'm fussy about dogs. I like some of them, but not others.
Oh, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have their preferences in breeds and things like that. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of like really yippy dogs.
Oh, exactly. That is my least favorite kind of dog.
And Yeah, I had a border collie and she just died last year, but she was the
Aw.
best dog. And she was so quiet because she would just sit in my office and she would stare at me. And, she, she was so alert, she was just a
Aw.
delightful dog. And she loved exercising and she was always ready for a walk. And she, she was a great dog. My husband misses her so terribly and he really wants to get another one. But
So get another
we
dog.
will. We will. We're just not quite ready yet. It's just still a little bit too soon. But we love dogs. I love
Yeah.
cats too, though. I think cats are beautiful and they're very intelligent. And yeah, I just love their independence, which is such a beautiful quality to, remember too. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay. So, well, this has been really interesting. I hope.
It sure has. Thank you. Wow, you've opened my eyes to all kinds of things. I've been taking notes.
All right, sweet. So, everybody out there, if you are listening, please get your astrology charts done. It is so worthwhile if you've never had it done. And it's something you can also do, like Simone was saying, get your solar return on your birthday, get your transits done. I mean, there's so many things you can learn from your astrology. It's amazing. And you can go to her website, astroalchemy.com. And also, if you're interested in finding love online, that is what I do over at loveinyourhands.com. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. As always, life has more meaning when it's shared. And I love you all very much and can't wait to connect with you again very soon. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to Love in Your Hands. Please rate, review, and subscribe to show your support. Have a question for Cynthia? Just post a comment. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to find soulmate love fast. Start your free Soul Connection membership today, upload your hand photo, discover your relationship archetype, and start finding soulmate matches. Just go to loveinyourhands.com to get started.